Torre, Washington.
Hey, hey.
I'm so excited to have you on. This is epic. So you've been vegan for 25 years. It's freaking crazy. 25 years, right?
Yes,
it sounds
ma'am.
crazy.
25 years.
And raised vegetarian.
Yes.
Which is very rare, especially for back then. And so I'm wondering, have you ever had a steak, a burger with all these years vegetarian and vegan?
Yes.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact. And, you know, I'm glad you asked that question because in the past, a lot of people would create these documents or these memes in a sense to showcase that I've never had it, right? But I know it was to help defend an argument of you don't need it. And now when it comes to me, that's very true. But during the transition from living in Alabama to moving to Jamaica, my mom, of course, raised me vegetarian up to like 9 years old. And so after that time, what happened is she came on a financial burden. And so her parents said, hey, send them to Jamaica and they can live with us while you get yourself back together. And so when we went to Jamaica, of course, my grandparents, they have no clue, an idea about vegetarian. And so the one thing my mother asked is that, hey, please don't feed them pork because it was more of a religious thing. And so they didn't do that. So I've never had pig in my life.
Wow.
But being in Jamaica, you have the curry goat and the jerk chicken and the fish and the rice and peas and all of that type of stuff. So I had that. And coming back to the States 3 years later, I still partook in it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But then eventually I transitioned due to my study and research into the Rastafarian lifestyle.
Wow,
so
cool.
that's what actually brought me into the life of vegan.
No way. And did you notice a difference when you went vegetarian to vegan and how you felt? Like your energy levels, your happiness, any like skin or like anything? Any differences or no?
The one thing that changed, asthma. When I was younger, because we still had dairy, asthma disappeared. Wow. So I didn't have any breathing issues. Because I remember attempting to run when I was in Alabama. I had a little, young kids racing in behind the school. Yeah. And I was fast. And I remember just taking off and being out in front of everybody. But closer to the end, I couldn't breathe. And so I started slowing down and I got passed. Wow. And so later on, once I fully immersed myself into just eating plants and fruits in my entire nutrient intake, I never had that problem again. It just disappeared. And, I never really paid much attention to it, but I didn't realize it until later, like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And of course, my energy was always, it even got better, my recovery, all that changed.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too with dairy.
Yes.
Yeah, the asthma, the sinus problems, the acne, seems like a huge thing. And it makes sense because there's so many hormones in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just lines your body with mucus, but, people want to, defend it just because it's been around for so long.
Yeah, totally. And I like how you're not a dogmatic vegan. Mm-hmm. You're not like shoving it down people's throats. I like that. I'm like that too. And I think it's amazing. And I'm just wondering, like, you're 48, I think. You're close to 50. Yes, I asked you before we came on if I could share that.
That's fine.
You look freaking amazing. Literally, I swear to God, I swear to you, I thought you were in your 20s. When I was doing the research for the interview and I asked you to come on, I thought you were in your 20s.
I get it all the time. And I am so appreciative and grateful that I still look that way. Because I think also what keeps me that way is my mindset, too. My mindset, staying active. But mainly, it's my nutrient intake, where I get my nutrients from. Because it's living. When I say living, it's food that comes from on the earth. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are some foods that go through a sort of process, but what doesn't go through a process?
Yeah,
whether it's a natural process or a man-made process, there's a process. Yeah. And I make sure that I'm always active. I think a lot of times we don't recognize the body was made to move, and we want to sit and be sedentary, and that's going to cause you to kind of regress into a state of a sedentary individual. Yeah. And so I attribute everything that I do as part of the process that keeps me looking this youthful. And so
and how do you feel? Like, is it worth it? Do you feel like you're clean, sober, right? Like,
yes,
how do you feel like this?
Do you
think it's a better life? Because I know a lot of people out there might be struggling, like addicted to chips or pop or drive-through food or like smoking or drinking. And any tips for them? And do you think it is better on the other side like this?
When I actually made that shift to being all plants and fruits, basically, because at that time I didn't know that I never heard of vegan, so when I made that switch, it was like a light switch. I just flipped it off and that was it. Yeah. I didn't have a transitionary period. So people always ask me like, how do you transition? I didn't have that process.
Yeah.
You know, so same thing when it comes to all the addictions that people tend to have, like they're addicted to the cigarettes or the nicotine or the marijuana or the alcohol or what have you. I could go out and party and not do any of that. And people always thought it was weird. Like, how do you go out and party till 5 a.m. but you don't drink or smoke? I was like, I just enjoy myself. I enjoy the environment. I enjoy people. You know, I enjoy the music. I just enjoy the whole time. I don't necessarily need something to put me under and do state to have fun. You know, fun is, everything can be mental, attributed to being mental, but it's a lot of times we don't go in our minds. We like to take the outside environment to dictate how we feel.
True. It's so true. I'm still working on that. Yeah, I think a lot of us
I mean, I think we all are, you know,
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
Yeah. And okay, so look at these muscles. Look at your frame. You literally look perfect. Like, you look so healthy and good. You make me want to get more fit. You are a bodybuilder. And any tips, like what are your secrets? If people want to look like this, where should they start? There's just so many things I want to ask with this.
So I started actually lifting just a weight in general. And that came about because moving from Alabama to Jamaica was a big move for me and my brother because, you know, it was like a shock.
Yeah.
You know, my brother was born there, but I was born in the States. And so, but he was little. You know, I went there when I was little, but I didn't really have any recollection of my time there. So when I moved there, it was a shock, and we were picked on because we sounded and looked different.
Yeah.
You know, we came from Alabama with this country accent to Jamaica where everything is cut off and them talk patois.
Yeah.
So when they hear us talking, and I was a lot lighter than I am now.
Yeah.
And they would kind of make names for us. They called me Red Mongoose and, you know, foreign boy and all this type of stuff. And so it was hard to be accepted. And so I kind of went into the world of cartoons and cartoon characters, you know, the X-Men, Transformers, Superman, they all were strong and they had this look. And I wanted to emulate that because I figured if I looked like that, no one would pick on me. And so I started to do what I could with what I had. My grandfather was an electrician. And so we're living with him. He had this big iron block that he used to solder things on. And so I started curling that. And then I started doing crunches and push-ups. And I remember my my family that were there, like, this little boy has like a stocky build. Like he looks like he could, you know, grow muscles. And so I just started doing that. And once I moved back to the States, my mom bought a bench for me, like a little cheap bench and one dumbbell. And I started to use that and I started reading everything I could about building muscles. And then I found out about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Started watching his movies.
Wow.
And I saw that he was a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, so that's how you get that physique. And that's when I started to really get into the process of becoming a bodybuilder. And then once I got into high school, I got a gym membership and I worked out at high school. So I worked out twice a day.
Wow.
In the beginning.
Wow.
So like 15 to like 19, I was doing that constantly in the gym. And I actually even thought about competing, but I never did it. You know, it's just, I was doing other things. I was still being a kid and, you know, having fun as a kid, but still working out.
Yeah.
And so I would say the best way to start is just to start.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's just 2-3 days a week, you know, start something. And now with all the resources that you have, it's probably best to hire someone that can actually put you on that path to doing things properly. Because the one thing for me is that I always made sure that I did things right. You know, I looked into the magazines and I studied the form. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to do preventive type of training. I didn't want to just train based on my ego. I wanted to look good as well as be strong.
And that's one thing I like about you. You don't have a big ego. Like, I've seen you in so many interviews and you're such a nice guy, you know? Like, you're not like, you know, you don't have that like cocky ego. You're a nice, real, genuine person, I feel like, with just so much depth and so much to you. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I've been told that I do need a little bit of that because I think that what limits my growth within social media is that I don't come off that way. I don't know if that's good or bad, you know, because I don't really use good or bad, but sometimes I have people say, I'm surprised your social media presence is not larger because of who you are.
Yeah.
And I think maybe because this day and age, this society loves drama. They love things that cause controversy out right away. Yeah. And I've just never been that type of individual, but I don't know.
No, yeah. And speaking of drama, well, I think you come across great on social media, and your page is amazing and it's growing still. And speaking of drama, yeah, like the Liver King, lots of people that aren't honest about things out there, right? So a lot of people are asking me on the comments, are you natty? Do you use steroids? And I don't think you do. I think I've heard you say you don't. I don't think you do, but if you'd like to talk about that, that'd be great.
You know, I remember when I first started competing.
Yeah.
And I started to post my pictures. People were like, there's no way he's vegan and natural because you can't build muscle with just plants and fruits. And I was like, I've been doing it. No, you had to have been, because when I was eating meat at the time, I wasn't really lifting. It's not until I actually began vegan in 98, then around 2008, 2009, I got serious into training. And I started competing in 2009. And so I started to continuously get bigger, stronger, more defined. And I got so defined that people said, there's no way you can get that defined eating that many carbs. Because that was the archaic way of thinking that you only need protein. You know, the body needs everything in order to, and it needs it in harmony and balance in order to get what you want, you know, the look you need. And the look of low body fat is really a caloric intake of going to a deficit and of course exercise and what have you. So I used to get that all the time. And to this day, I still get it. Even people that meet me in person, which I find it hard to believe because if you meet someone in person who is using and someone who is not using, they look different.
Yeah.
You know, there is a difference. And I would get guys looking at me like, there's no way. You have to be taking something. Are you not taking testosterone? I'm like, no. And most of the drugs that are used to enhance the physique, I don't even know what they are. It's not until I moved to South Florida in the last 10 years that I've learned more about these things because so many people do it. And they talk about it. Now it's a little bit more, not as taboo. More people are candidly discussing what they take because also they assume I am or that I know about it because of the industry that I'm involved in. And so also when I became an IFBB Pro, which is the largest organization for competitive bodybuilders and what have you, that's when I really assured that there's no way that you're competing in that and not using. And so I have never touched anything remotely close to that to even know. So it's just really, I think as a compliment because that means my physique being natural, plants and fruits, has a look that people already assume that you're using. So that's great.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Well, that's good. So that's how you've reacted to it. Because I know a lot of us online see things that aren't true about us, right? And it can make you feel defensive and want to snap back or do things. So what's your advice for people who face that? Even people who aren't online in your life, people say things about you that aren't true or you deal with negativity from people. Do you have any advice for people to stay positive and sort of not put attention to that and stay strong in who you are?
I think it's something I just mentioned earlier about not allowing your environment to dictate how you feel. You know, and that's what happens is if something is going great in our lives, now we feel good. And so that means that you are allowing the outside environment to dictate how you feel within. And when it doesn't go well, now you feel bad.
Yeah. So how do we get there? How do we not, do you think meditate? Maybe I need
it's
to do
meditation. And I used to do a lot more and I don't do it as much. I think because now my goal is to live in that type of mindset daily. And it's a process because we're human and we have emotions. And someday something might happen. And the point about it is not reacting to it. I mean, of course, that'd be the ideal situation, not to react at all. But if you react, how long do you stay in that reaction? You know, because then some people said, this person did this to me, it ruins my whole day. And you're allowed that person to ruin your whole day. They don't live inside you.
I know.
You live inside you, you know.
True, yeah.
And so it's the same thing with someone talking bad about you online. They don't know you.
Yeah.
You know, they're not, you know, back in the day, they're not paying your bills.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you have to take care of your house.
Yeah.
You know, they can only speak from the outside based on what they're given visually. They have no idea how you were raised, how you were brought up, what you've gone through. All they can see is what you show them. And you can show them a lie if you want to. And then when they say stuff, you're like, hey, that's what you think because that's what I give you, you know, or someone else may give you. So it's a process. I'm not going to say it's going to happen overnight. It's something you have to do daily.
Yeah. And I feel like fitness helps a lot with that, right?
Yes,
like
because delayed gratification.
So much better. So yeah, so fitness, I mean, clearly it's done so much for your body, but I'm wondering, how has it changed your life otherwise in other areas?
You know, I had to really take into account because I didn't really think about it in that sense, because it's not until people point it out. Like, you've been working for, because automatically when people see social media or see you online, they think, oh yeah, he has to be using, because they figure, first of all, they think I'm a lot younger. So that in and of itself makes them feel like, oh, he's definitely using drugs because he's vegan, IFBB pro. No way, he has to be using drugs. Look at his size, his definition. He has gyno on his nipples or whatever. They find something. Look at the veins, you know, what have you.
They just look for things.
Yes, and so and then they don't realize I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, 30 plus years I've been training and working out, and so I have muscle maturity that makes it look as if I just had this happen in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, so, but then there are very few who can say, oh no, he's natural, because they know what is involved with someone who is using.
Yeah.
You know, and they go through a major change sometimes, because some parts of the year they're not using anything. And so they get a little smaller. And then as they go back on, they cycle back on, they get bigger. And then it's just a process in order to maintain their health per se.
Yeah. And you know the truth. I feel like that's all that matters.
Right.
And you're telling the truth. We know that. But I guess, like, I think it can be wrong if somebody is, like, say they're a coach or they sell products or supplements and they're, like, saying the opposite of what they're doing. Then maybe it's okay, that's a bit sketchy.
Oh,
and how do you keep up with that, right? You got to be, I think it's just all about being authentic in life and online. And, okay, so I want to talk about food, too, for a second. What does a daily life look like? What does a day in the life look like for you for your meal plan right now?
So, I like to put this out in the beginning, because a lot of this, even to this day, I'm surprised that it's like everything circles back around. Now, again, tofu, soy has been plagued as being bad.
Yeah.
Right? And my mother raised me as a vegetarian. Excuse me. That's what I started eating, because that was all we pretty much had around. And then even to the point where a lot of my food had a lot of preservatives, because she fed us a lot of canned things. I don't know if you've heard of Loma Linda brand, all those things. They're older, but they have all these quote unquote meat substitute type of foods. And it was textured vegetable protein, soy protein used to create them. And so I was brought up that way. And so as tofu came into the world, because we didn't know tofu then, tofu came in later. I started eating that the most. I ate tofu. I started eating a lot of rice. I ate a lot of potatoes. I had a lot of veggies. I ate every veggie I ate. And I was a big fruit fan. Loved bananas, loved grapes, loved watermelon, loved cantaloupe, honeydew. Ate all of that, and I just continued. And it was just my thing. And then once they started adding in, because it was more out of convenience. So I ate out of convenience. So, and to do it quickly. So I would make burritos, vegan veggie burritos.
Yeah. And
that's how I ate, even in the beginning phases of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
It was a lot of carbs. I never even focused on the protein. I didn't really know how much I was taking in. It's not until one day I checked it, I was like, oh, I'm eating about 50 grams.
Yeah.
But I was still winning shows, doing well. The competitors behind the stages couldn't believe how I looked. And then when they found out I was vegan, they were like, what?
Yeah.
We need to talk to you, because I get so tired of eating chicken every day. I had a friend that ate so much chicken that he was so tired of it, tired of the chewing and the mastication process. You know what he did to it? He put it in a blender.
Oh, wow. Oh, my
made it
gosh.
into a sort of a soup and drank it.
Oh, my gosh. I knew someone who would do that with the chicken soup. I was like, oh.
Because they were just tired of eating it. But that's all they had been told was the way in order to get the look you need.
Yeah,
because,
that's the thing.
if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, they ate a lot of chicken, lots of chicken, potatoes, and then they took their steroids orally mostly. I don't think they really did injections back then. They did more of the tablets or what have you. And then now it's so much more advanced. You have all types. You have all types of different things to do this, and this. And that's a lot on the liver and a lot on your organs to go through that process in order to look a specific way for 10 seconds or 30 seconds on stage.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. And now I eat a lot of anything that's like, for example, now they've added seitan. Seitan is new to me in the sense that, the wheat gluten. Some days I actually have done a 10-day fast.
Yeah.
And that was fun. I love that. Actually, in the first 3 days, it was a little tough. But then your body gets so used to it. And I still worked out. Because people say.
Fast? So what did you do on the fast?
I actually did I guess it would be called more of an extreme fast.
Yeah.
But it was the Master Cleanser. You ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of. Isn't that like the lemon, water, cayenne?
Lemon,
syrup?
and I love cayenne.
I've never done it. Wow.
So cayenne was.
Yeah, I heard you love cayenne. That's one thing you
I
can't
love
live
spicy.
without. Me too. It's so good.
So cayenne, maple syrup, organic maple syrup. I think it was the actual, the darker one.
Yeah.
The one that has more minerals in it.
Yeah.
And water.
Yeah.
So I just drank that daily. Anytime you felt hungry, you drink it.
Wow.
And it's interesting how much clarity you get mentally.
Yeah, with the fasting,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was so good. And people said, did you work out? I was like, yeah.
Wow.
I still worked out because to me, a lot of times I get asked, what kind of pre-workout you do? I don't do that because working out is mental. If you're mentally prepared to do it, you don't need something to give you a boost of energy to do it because then you're going to always depend on that. You're just creating another dependency in order to get your workout in. And if you need that, you're going to just need it forever. And that can mess up your adrenal glands and what have you later on in life because we forget about the compounding process of certain things that we do that we think is small. Oh, no, this is okay. But you continuously do it. And then eventually something fails, but you don't know how it failed because you're not thinking of the compound process of boom, 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 boom. So
true.
So yeah, and now I eat seitan, I eat tofu, I eat tempeh. I found a new type of tofu that's made out of fava beans. Yeah, cool. And the reason I'm doing this now because I love to eat sometimes just veggies, but I like to eat more. Yeah. So I'm not really big on. I used to not do shakes at all. Yeah. So I do shakes now only because now I've hired a coach. Nice. I used to coach myself. Yeah. And I was still doing well, but then I said, it's always great to have. I realize every great coach has a coach. And that made me feel like, okay, let's do this. And so to have another set of eyes looking at you actually was very helpful. And it actually gave me the opportunity to not have to think so much about it. Now I just do. Yeah. And so I'm really good at taking just directions. Cool. Because I think a lot of people aren't teachable because they want to do it all themselves. Yeah. And so I took that, and one thing he changed, because I used to do a lot of carbs, he changed me to more of a higher protein. And, I've seen a difference because I think as your body changes, especially as we get older, we need more protein just to kind of maintain the muscle because we start to lose muscle as we age. But I feel like I forget how my age because of how I look and how I feel. And so now because of that increase in protein, it has changed the way I eat a little bit more. So, but now my favorite carb source is Japanese protein, Japanese sweet potatoes. That's one of my favorite carb sources. Those are so good. And I love baking it. It's so sweet. And it's just because I have a big sweet tooth as well. But now fruit has really yellow dragon fruit. Oh,
so good.
Mangoes, and Florida.
Do you like jackfruit? That's really good.
I like jackfruit sweet, of course. Yeah. Yes. And in Jamaica, it's there. I just didn't realize that when I came and I saw a restaurant take jackfruit and make a sandwich out of it, I was like, ew. Yeah. Yeah. Not until I tasted it.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, wow. It's so good. Because I didn't realize that they just use it green and then they can season it into, I guess, sort of a meat. Because I didn't know, I never had a Reuben or anything like that. And that's what I had. That was my first introduction to jackfruit as a food, was at this restaurant in Kansas City, Kansas. And it was called Food, the name of the restaurant. Cool. Of course, it's not there anymore, but that was the first time I had it because I was like, jackfruit sandwich?
No, it's good. It's good with in tacos.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's really good.
But now, jackfruit has been used so much, I'm tired of it.
Yeah, true, yeah.
It's like everything is jackfruit. But now, you know, there's a lot of different things that they use to. Mushrooms are big now. You know, all the oyster mushrooms, the lion's mane. I love eating those as well. So, and I like to vary my sources of nutrition because I think that's one thing that is very helpful is having a variety, because the body is very unique in that it picks up nutrients from all the sources and puts it together to create your complete amino acid profile, which people feel like, oh, you got to have rice and beans together or you're not getting a complete protein. But that's not how the body works. The body doesn't necessarily need it all at one time. It can take it from sources and put it together, and now you're good.
Yeah. No, I've read some studies that say the longest living people have the most diverse gut microbiome from eating like a wide variety of different foods. And I'm wondering, have you ever tried raw or no? I eat raw vegan.
Well, so there's a time where I do it as well because I like raw. I'm so fascinated at the fact that raw can. I was like, wow, you can do that with walnut meat.
Right,
you know, and it was just, you know, at one point there used to be a lot of restaurants.
Yeah.
But it's like it's died down a little bit.
I think it's more expensive. I think it's hard for them to like stay in business because it's just so much for all the produce and stuff for the restaurant. Do you think you could get like jacked like this with all raw or no?
I think that's just something I would have to see done.
Yeah.
And I feel like it could definitely be maintained because I honestly built this without having to really increase my protein intake until later on, right? And so there are people that can thrive off high fat, you know, because that's the one thing about raw. I think it's a lot of high fat because they do the avocados, the oils, the walnuts. Those have high fat, you know, of course, the oleic acid, oleic.
Yeah.
So nothing is impossible, you know, and that's the human dilemma is we want to go after things that seem impossible. And there's always someone that's going to break that and show it that it can be done. Yeah. Remember, there used to be the 5-minute mile. Now it's 3 minutes.
True.
You know, that first person that did it showed everybody else, it is possible. And that's how I was looking at me getting into the IFBB as a vegan. And I would love to get to the Olympia because Olympia is the biggest stage across the world. And no one has actually done it vegan to vegan. They may have gotten there and then later on it changed, but they haven't gone straight there. And even if they've done it using drugs or not, it's still to showcase that what you eat does not have an impact on the muscle you build. And I think that's a lot of times people assume that if you eat just plants and fruits, you can't look like these guys or gals, because most of them are using. And as long as you're using, because it's just what it does is increases muscle protein synthesis. You know, so if you do the same thing, you should be able to accomplish the same look.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not doing it that way.
No. And I'm wondering, how many days a week do you work out? Like, what's your routine? Do you have like a specific routine?
So normally for me, it's about 5 to 6 days a week of working out. This week I've been cheating. I've only done 2 because I don't feel like it. But, you know, and I said it to someone. I was like, oh, so you are human. I was like, yeah. You don't, because, you know, we all sometimes just don't feel like it. But I do know how to keep myself to maintain my look, my shape, because I know my body. You know, you should learn how your body reacts and works because that helps you stay within a range that you want to maintain. And a lot of times people say, oh, that body fat is not maintainable for a long time because it's not good for you. I think I don't go much above 9 to 10% ever. That's just the way I like to be.
Yeah.
You know, of course, when I get down to competition look, it's about on the outside because we still have fat on our organs. It has the look of like 4 to 5%, you know, which we know it's not completely accurate in measuring our body fat. It's more of a reference to kind of get an idea of how much weight you've lost and how much fat you've lost, just to kind of keep you going in a certain path to the goal that you need to reach.
Yeah.
And when it comes to physique, it's all about how we look anyway. They're not asking you like, hey, how much is your body fat? Or how much do you weigh? They're going based off your look.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, awesome. I'd love to ask you some of the viewers' questions.
Yeah,
viewers,
no
they
problem.
have... Wait 1 sec. They are the best. They have so many great questions. They all said you look amazing, obviously, what you do. Okay, so they asked about the soy, but we already did that. So the next one is Carol would like to know, looking forward to this interview, would love to hear his tips on dealing with family and social pressure around food. Have you dealt with a lot of that being vegan?
So I guess because I've been doing it for such a long time, the most thing I got was people were creating they were jokesters.
Yeah.
They would make jokes and say, for example, when I was in college, they would say, Tori's fine. You know, we'll all go out to eat. He can just eat from the grass and the tree bark. And I was like, okay, ha, ha, ha. Because, you know, they just figured all we ate was grass. And so, and when it comes to social pressures, I guess it all depends on what is the pressure. Like, are they pressuring you to say, because the crazy part is when someone realizes that someone in the family is now not eating meat or what have you, everybody becomes a doctor. Like, oh, that's not good. You're not going to get enough protein. And,
so true.
And then here's the question. How do you know you were getting enough protein? You just assume, based on what you were eating, that you were getting in the right nutrients. You never once looked into it. But because someone else decided to go outside of the norm, which that's considered norm, now it's a problem. And so how do we deal with them is basically you have your own goals. And I think a lot of times too, when we have children or whatever, we almost want to force them to become a smaller version of us, when in and of itself, they are an individual. They can do as they please. You just guide them, but you don't necessarily force them. So if they make a change, that's their journey. You know, they have their own journey because eventually you're not going to be there.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's the same thing with family. You know, I don't know why family feels like they have to pressure someone to continue to be like everybody else. You know, we should allow people to have their own journey, you know, because it's the path of their own choosing. But we have a society that wants to dictate everybody to do the same thing. And so when that dictation gets larger and larger and you step outside of it, what are you doing? You're wrong. No. Everybody does it this way. And it's like, why? You know, I can be an individual and I can make my own decisions, you know, and I have to live with the consequences of my own decisions. So I would think family pressure should be a lot lighter because it is your family. They should love you regardless if you're choosing to eat this for a social way. And I get it. Sometimes there's social pressure of you go out and people say, oh man, just have a drink. And it's very interesting that people want you to partake because they think you aren't having fun.
Yeah.
And you're probably having more fun.
Yeah.
Not only that, you're not going to deal with the consequences if you got too inebriated of the headache, the drunkenness, the throwing up that some people get. You're going to be fine the next day. Because I've had someone tell me, and this is a quote unquote huge celebrity that I met, and they said to me, what are you drinking? I was like, oh, water. They're like, oh, I don't trust you. Like, what?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because I guess they figure if they get drunk and they start saying crazy stuff, I'll remember it. Whereas they don't remember it. So.
Yeah, so true.
So I would say as far as social pressures, don't make it a pressure. Just make it something that they've said and just keep it moving.
Yeah, prioritize yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah, and I have to say, before we get to the next question, you have such nice teeth. And a lot of people come on the channel and they say the vegan diet's going to ruin your teeth.
Oh my gosh.
So clearly your teeth look really healthy. Have you had any, and I'm wondering if you had any health problems being 25 years vegan, like any issues over the years?
No, and that's what when I see all of these people that are like, oh, I'm no longer, blah, blah, blah. It's like, why do we have to post that and talk about that so much? It's like, that's you. That's your journey. Fine. Go ahead. You don't need to label it in your bio, ex-vegan. Like,
Totally.
Really? Like, okay. No. So what are you no. And honestly, that's why when I'm seeing people, check this person out. They did it for 4 years, 6 years, 25 years here, people, 25 years. So the truth is right here. So if you want to, you should share me to the whole world. Like, hey, look, this guy's 25 years.
Yeah.
And he's still thriving, still building muscle, still doing things. I don't know what the word SICK means. It's it's foreign to me. I just keep it moving. And I always get the question about my teeth that, did you do anything to them? Did you do the brightening? No.
They're so nice.
No, and I guess I don't drink coffee. I may drink it once in a while. I don't drink soda. What else? I love green tea. You know, I've been drinking green tea forever. And I guess there's a lot of things out there that may stain. I don't drink wine or anything like that. And a lot of these things do stain the enamel. I just brush my teeth like any normal person. And I typically like to use natural toothpastes.
Nice.
So Tom of Maine or the charcoal ones. Sometimes I just brush my teeth with baking soda, you know, whatever. And I do my best to keep those bamboo toothbrush. That way, you know, it's better for the environment as well with all the plastic that we're putting out there. So little bits that I can do here and there. So so that's about it. I don't really do anything to them. And I need to floss more. Yeah. Because that's the one thing that when you go in, the dentists are like, hey, you need to keep. And I think because flossing is such a chore.
It is.
It's like,
it is.
Gotta get way back there. It's like, oh my gosh.
And have you checked your blood work? Do you check your blood work at all? And do you supplement like B12 or anything?
You know, I had never thought about B12 ever in my life. And I had never had any issues. Next thing I know, that was the vegan Achilles heel. Yeah. B12. And I was like, are you kidding me? So now this is the new thing. It was like protein first. Then B12 became a big thing. Now it's gone away. Now it's back to protein. And B12's coming back. And vitamin D. So it's all these.
So you don't supplement with them at all?
No, I never did.
Wow.
Until it became a thing. I was like, all right, here and there.
Yeah.
But it's never been consistent.
Yeah.
And I never done blood work because I never felt the need to do it.
Yeah.
And I had one of my clients did it the other day. She was just like, I just wanted to do it to see. They told her, like, your B12 is high. And I was like, you should tell people that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And she was like, yeah, because, of course, one thing about B12 is a lot. One of the research that I've looked into, it's based on your gut flora. Yeah. Being able to be absorbed into the body. And a lot of times, things that we consume block the absorption process. True. So no matter who you are. Yeah. And so it's funny how they turned it into this vegan thing, but it could be an everybody thing, you know. And so I've done it here and there, but I know that what they've said is that it's when you have the deficiency or whatever and an issue that arise from it, it's not, you can't reverse it. Yeah. Right. So, okay, this has been 25 years. I never thought about B12 in that way.
That's interesting.
You know, so, and even vitamin D, I get it from the sun.
Yeah, you get it from the sun.
And it's like people are mad at, I can't be in the sun. You can't be in the sun for 24 hours if you have a fair skin. Yeah. There's a melanin amount that dictates how much you should get per day. I can get a lot more because I have more melanin in my skin. Yeah. Some people need only 5 to 15 minutes. And then now you've got your vitamin D stores that your body needs. It's a hormone that produces the vitamin D for your body. Yeah. But now they're scared of the sun. So much sunscreens are out there, and everybody's lathering stuff in their bodies that gets absorbed by your skin. Yeah. And it goes into your body, and later on you're like, oh, I'm getting this happening. Why? Yeah. You know, so we don't think about those things. We just get the doom and gloom and the fear-based media that just makes us scared of everything.
True. Yeah. True. Good point. Well, the next question is, they're wondering, can you recommend anything for someone like me who is a thin build and has a hard time putting on any kind of weight? I think this is really common. I'm meaning lean weight, not fat. I work out regularly and eat 6 meals a day, but can't gain any weight. I'm a fast metabolizer as well. Yeah.
And that's actually a good problem to have, the fast metabolism, because therefore, you know, your body's always burning. And so not necessarily to say you have to eat 6 meals a day, but it's really about increasing. Say, for example, if their body needs 1,800 calories per day, right? Yeah. Just as a basal metabolic rate. So that's just what they need to survive, right? So if they're counting in their metabolism, their activity level, so all of that put together, let's say that pushes them up to about 3,000. So what they need to do, if 3,000 is going to keep them at a maintenance level, based on their activity and their metabolism, they need to increase that. So it's really about just increasing the amount more that they eat. And because there's nothing else you're going to do to continuously put on weight unless you're intaking in a surplus on a consistent basis.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's not saying you have to jump from 3,000 to 5,000.
Yeah.
Because then your body may hold on to adipose tissue, and now you're going to be putting on fat. So if you want to do it lean, increase it gradually, like 200 to 500 calories extra, and then look at it's like track it. You just have to track the data, and the data is most important because you can go back and see, okay, how consistent was I for that week? And then if I can see a noticeable change, do I increase or stay and see what happens? Because, you know, you may fluctuate or you may hit a plateau. Yeah. You got to change something in order to. And for this person, which is the beauty of them, is they want to go that way. Most people want to go down. And so since they have to go up, man, that's something that they could play all around with that.
Yeah, good point. True, good point. And okay, how is it possible to be as beautiful as you are? A lot of people are asking if you're single.
So I used to be married for 10 years, and then I had a divorce, and so now I'm just living life, you know, enjoying myself. Nice. And it's a process that I think we all should do, where we get to know and love ourselves more and really learn who we are as a individual person. Because when you can be alone and not lonely, that's awesome. And I think a lot of times people consider themselves lonely, so they have to have someone to help them feel better about themselves. And that's sad, because you shouldn't need someone else to put you in a place where you feel good. Because then you're going to always need that validation from that other person to feel good about yourself. You should feel good regardless if someone's there or not, you know, and it takes time, you know, and I'm not going to say I did it overnight. It's still something I learned, you know, but I think when you are that way, people kind of feel like, oh, you have no emotions, but it's not true. You know, I just know how I am as an individual, and of course, there has to be empathy for other people. And you got to accept them where they are, you know. And another thing with that is acceptance. Acceptance is a powerful term that most people don't use. You know? And it's hard because, you know, you can sit there out in traffic, and next thing you know, someone cuts you off and you're mad at them. But they probably didn't realize you were there, or they were just thinking about their life. They got to get home quickly for something else, and it's not intentional because they don't know you. They don't know that, oh, that was GILLIANBERRY. I'm going to cut her off. They don't know. Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, you have a son, right? You have a teenage son?
Yes.
Is he vegan? Did you raise him vegan or not?
So the irony of that is when I married his mom, he was 2, right? So she raised him vegetarian, you know, while he was 2. And then, of course, marrying me, I'm vegan. So it just kept it going. Yeah. And she knew because her family, her mom is also vegan. And so she was brought up that way, but she's no longer that way. But she knew that it was a better way to raise him. And then eventually he came into the understanding that he doesn't want to eat animals. He loves animals because I love animals too. And so now we're so much closer in that aspect. And 17 years, he hasn't had any bit of meat. And every now and then he may have cheese, but it's not like he goes out and eats cheese. He doesn't eat eggs. And so, and I'm, as you mentioned before, I'm not going to force him. But there's days when he'll say, I'm going to go full vegan. I'm like, don't tell me that. Because then I'm going to hold you accountable. I'd rather you just do it whenever you want. Yeah. You know, and now because of the way he looks and his friends find out he doesn't eat meat, they're like, what? Like he's fast, strong, still growing, like hasn't had bone issues, and he's still building muscle. Hair is thick and growing. He's basically breaking that myth as I am, and he's actually he has more of a head start than I did. Yeah, exactly. You know, because I remember at 9 I kind of stopped. He's 17. He's still going.
Wow, amazing. And I've heard you're a great dad. And I've heard you be quite open about not having a father figure yourself.
Yes.
And I think it's just amazing that you turned out so great, because I think in a lot of cases, if we don't have that, then it would be easy to get angry and maybe go the other way in life and turn into an addict or like different things. So why do you think you were still able to overcome that obstacle and turn out so amazing?
So two things. When I realized that, I didn't need a father, because I got to a position in life financially and educational wise where I went without them. And when I met him when I was 35, because my mom found out where he was, and he was in Michigan. And you
met him for the first time at 35? Correct. Wow.
Because he left when I was 5, excuse me. And so 30 years later, I actually meet a sister who she was older. And she was from the neighbor who were my father.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I was an engineer working with Honda, and when as an automotive engineer in the automotive industry, you tend to have to go to Detroit. Because Detroit, one of the big three.
That's what my husband does. He's in automotive industry, and he goes to Detroit a lot.
What company?
He has his own company now.
Yeah,
but he worked for Magna and Gestamp forever. CDT.
No, those are.
I think he's going to go back to those companies. Yeah.
Okay,
right
yeah. So I started out as a manufacturing engineer with a small Japanese company called Touchstone Precision in Alabama. I worked there for them for 4 years.
Cool.
Then moved up to like manufacturing and project management.
Yeah.
And then from there, I moved to Honda Manufacturing of Alabama, which was, we manufactured the Odyssey, the Ridgeline, the MDX, and the Pilot, which are all the SUVs.
Yeah.
And when they had the whole automotive industry kind of shut down thing, they added in the Honda Accord just to kind of keep the plant going. But I worked as a quality engineer, so I had parts that were part of the vehicle that I had to maintain. So I went from a tier 3 supplier to the OEM. So now I'm the big dog.
Yeah.
So I go to the suppliers like, hey.
Yeah.
What you got for me? I'm here now. So I went to Detroit working with a company called Delphi, and I would go there often. And so I found out my dad lived there.
Wow.
And so it was the first time to meet him. I met him.
How was that?
I know. 3 daughters. He has 3 daughters. He was remarried.
Was it so emotional seeing him for the first time?
Not for me.
Yeah.
It was more like,
I guess, right? Yeah.
Like, okay, now I get to meet you.
Yeah.
I think it was more emotional for him and his daughters because they heard so much about me. And then they saw that I was like this big, in their eyes, a celebrity, because even in the vegan world, I was considered a celebrity, but I was still working as an engineer. And I went there and hung out with them at their house. And I remember asking him his side. He did not want to talk about it at all. And I thought that was odd because he almost got defensive. He's like, no, that's been the past. We don't need to talk about that. I was like, oh, okay. And then that's never brought it up again. And they wanted to go work more at being vegan because they saw how I looked. But they never fully went. He, of course, didn't. And one of his daughters, one time I remember they sent me a picture of them holding a big steak, like as a joke.
Yeah.
And maybe about a few months or a year after that, he died.
Wow.
Health-wise.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old was he?
I would say in his 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was hard for them, but for me, it was just like, oh, okay. Because I had pretty much, at that time, I'd known them for about 5 years. Anytime I went to Detroit, I would go see them, stay with them a day or two, like a night or two, just because I was usually in the location for 3 to 5 days. I never went on a time when I wasn't at work. It was always, I would go for work, I would go see them.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
It was the company that paid me. And it gave me time to do it because you're not working 24 hours. You work for the 8 to 10, and then you go do things on your own time. And so I would go visit them. And so it was interesting, And so, but I realized that I didn't need him to get to where I needed to. But I said, if I have a child, I want to be there, So, and I made sure that I was there.
That's great.
And still be there, And, Ethan, that's my son, he has 2 dads. His biological is there now, but he's more so into me as his father because I've been there every day for the last 15 years, so, and we'll continue,
Yeah.
There's always growing pains, but, I typically allow him to be his own person. Of course, there's times when you're like, you got to clean this up, man. You can't just leave a mess. If you go to someone's house, I like to say, if you go to someone's house and you're staying with them, be invisible.
Yeah.
Not necessarily you don't talk to them, but make it seem as though you're not a burden in any way. And you clean up after yourself.
Yeah, I always say like leave a place better than you found it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. We all go through these hard obstacles, right? But I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast and it was like, I think it was him and Russell Brand, I forget. But they were saying like great people come out of like obstacles and having like a lot of problems and facing, you rarely see like a great influential person come out of like a perfect life. You know what I mean?
Which is crazy. That Superman.
Yeah.
All of them, they always usually have these crazy backstories, and then they become this individual that's like larger than life and helping other people. Yeah. And that was always one of my things. I always like to help people.
Yeah, I know. I saw something you said. So I think you said the funnel of prosperity starts when we're doing what we're meant to do and we're serving others and being the light. I'm pretty sure I heard you say that somewhere.
Yes.
And I love that. I think that's so true. I mean, that's been so true for me too. Like as a person, my background was real estate. I did that since I graduated university way back when. And it just never really took off. Like I liked it. But then since I've been in my element doing all this, it's just like the prosperity has come. It's just in alignment. Everything just always works out. And so I'd love for you to expand on that because I love that. I think I just wish everybody could find their purpose and be doing what they're meant to do.
You know, because I remember being younger, driving around. Like if I'm on the highway and I see a car stopped on the road, I would stop and ask them if they needed help. And back then, it was okay. Of course, some women would still find it weird. Like, I'm okay. But I would help people if I could. And it was not necessarily a means for me to feel good. It was just more like, I would want someone to do that for someone I know or me, you know, whatever. So, like, if I stopped to help anybody, anyone in my family, I would hope someone did the same, you know. So it's almost like that golden rule of do unto others as we have them do unto you. And so that's exactly how I looked at it. And so when it came about for fitness, because as an engineer, you're helping people, but I'm more so helping the plant increase the bottom line, you know, because you're just a number inside of a factory, you know, and when you leave, it's like, oh, we just replace you. It's not like they're like, oh, shoot, Tori's gone. It's like, okay, who else can take it over? You know, we just hire in the next person, probably pay them less. You know, so once I got into fitness, I started working with people and they were getting those results. It was like I had a personal attachment to them feeling better about themselves. And I was like, man, that's good. You know, and it wasn't even about the money. I felt like I could do it for free. Yeah. It's not just someone's like, you can't do it for free. You need to pay your bills. I was like, oh, okay, exactly. Yeah. All right. And that's why I think if I had that financial stability of riches, I would do a lot of stuff for free. You know, because I feel like just helping people. And sometimes I would look at it as when you're helping people or you want to just help people, that's why you're not rich. Because you'll be helping too many people. Yeah. But anyway, or rich financially, because you can live a rich life, not necessarily have to have that financial to be rich. It's how you see yourself. And so the funnel of prosperity comes when you're doing what you love to do. And so once I realized that I enjoy doing that, someone said, you should move to Florida. And there's a lot of opportunity there. And I said, all right. And I moved back here 10 years ago. And it's like the first day I went to work out with a high school friend. She asked me to come work out with her. And we went to this gym. And I had on a Vega shirt. And one of the owners noticed it. And they had, vegan was growing at that time. And they said, man, I want to have more of that in my life as well as in this gym, does that company supply? And I was like, yeah, they probably do. And later on, after my workout, the next day, my friend said, hey, the owner reached out to me and wanted to talk with you. I was like, okay. So when I talked with her, she said, I would love to have you be a trainer here. I was like, wow. Huh. It's like, yeah, we need someone like you. And I was like, wow, okay. And that was it. And that was I picked up something without even going about looking for it.
Yeah. Just like meant to be. It's funny how that person said to you should move to Florida. I feel like I hear stories like that all the time. It's like people are talking to us and we need to listen. Sometimes people are maybe like talking to us through a God giving us the path, right? It's almost like you should move to Florida. You're like, sure, okay. And it's meant to be, right?
Gillian, it's interesting you say that too. Because you know how many times I've been told to have a podcast? Wow. I've been on so many and I enjoy it. And I think one of the ones I did in California with one of my friends, she was like, Tori, this is like, you're just like so chill. Yeah. It's almost like it's like going a different route, but you know, just the way my voice sounded. And so people say you have a great voice.
You do.
It's like soothing.
Yeah, it
and
is.
I was like, I get told that a lot. And I look at podcasts as being a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, and do I have the time for that? But I enjoy doing them, and I love getting this opportunity to share my story with great people.
Here and do them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and exactly. So with great people. So I didn't, now seeing this, I'm like, I guess I don't necessarily have to create it in my basement or something. But just do it like this. But, you know, so I've heard that a lot. I actually write a book, and so I finally started that process. You know, I have a writer, and I didn't know you could just hire a writer. Yeah, that's so awesome. I thought you had to do it yourself, and I was like, oh, wow, there's work.
Right?
But it's just dictating to someone who helps you write the book.
Cool.
And they get paid for doing that, and it's like, of course, they need to get paid. You know, that's what they're actually taking a lot of the pressure off of you with the time, and so that is going on, and I'm just looking, you know, meaning I never thought when I was coming up that I would meet celebrities that I always wanted to kind of meet, but not in the fan type of way, but just like like this. Exactly, yeah. And having them reach out to me because they're like, oh, he's the expert on this whole vegan bodybuilding thing. Let's talk to him. And you're like, who's this person? Because I don't know their names. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such and such. Yeah. You know, like I'll never forget the day Chris Hemsworth reached out to me because I didn't know the name. I knew the character he portrayed. He's
an actor, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he played Thor in Marvel Avengers. And so that's how I related the person. And then I was like, oh, shoot, that's him. Yeah. And it was just, now we work together. We created the app. I'm on his app with him on Center. And it's just amazing. So great person. And, you know, go to Australia. Yeah. And I remember I was doing a live and someone said, I would love to see you in Australia. It's like, I would love to go to Australia. A week later, they contact me about it.
I feel like when things are meant to be, they're just so effortless like that. And like you said, people just message you. It's like you don't have to like push and try so hard.
And when you do, it's harder. Yeah. Because, you know, when you get to that point, you're like, oh man, I need to pay this. And you think so much about finances. Yeah. It's almost as if you push it away. True. When you let it go and just like, oh, it'll happen. It's like things line up. Like I have a lot of clients of mine are like the top 1% of the world. Yeah. And I work with them here, but they tend to travel a lot. They'll travel a lot more in this time frame of the year. And then I have a different side of clientele that picks up. It's almost like it's an alignment when I just flow. And that was another thing that's hard for me that I don't know if you noticed, to set a schedule. Like how, okay, I'm gonna do this at this time. I've always been, I didn't like being bound to a schedule. I like to just go. And then I get people like, Tori, we need to know time. Like, okay. Because I think I was so stuck in that when you're at corporate America, you doom, structure. Which is, I get it makes sense to do that now. Yeah. Because now I'm my own an entrepreneur. Yeah. Have my own company. Sometimes I just like to let's just go flow. Oh, you want to do it at 3? Okay, I'll be there. Yeah. You know, instead of, okay, next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Yeah. Next week, Monday, 7 p.m. And it's like, so I have to get used to that. You know, that's something I have to grow into because, you know, that's how I do it, but I can't assume everybody's going to do what I do. You know, so we got to have some more sort of a compromise and kind of just flow with alignment.
I like it. And at what point did you know it was time to leave corporate America? I don't know, people like want to leave that corporate job and follow their passion, but they're like, oh, should I? Is it too financially risky?
I remember the first day I walked into work, my first job, and they were like, oh, you got to swipe in. I was like, swipe in? That day, I said, I'm not going to be here forever. No. Yeah. And I started looking into things to make money on the outside. And next thing I know, someone contacted me on an airplane. He started talking to me, you know, the whole throwing the game at you to kind of find out what you're about. And then after he got off the plane, he pitched me. And that put me in the network marketing world. So I started out with network marketing. The good thing I saw about network marketing is it taught me a lot about rejection. And I did a lot of personal improvement because they always were about improving your person and reading things like that, and going to seminars. So I remember a seminar I used to go to all the time with a woman by the name of Danny Johnson. And she was very big on that. And she used to say, nothing becomes dynamic until it's specific. So if you're not specific about what you want, it's not going to truly occur. You had to be specific. And a lot of times we aren't specific. We're very general. I just want to be rich.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be specific. It's so true.
Yeah, and it's hard because when you set a specific, if you don't reach it, you almost get mad. And so, but it just needs to be specific. It needs to be, I want to have this much by this time. What are you doing to work towards to get that? You know, and that's the tough part. You know, so I think generally saying we just like to just say stuff instead of being specific about it. Same thing when it comes to training and working out and doing different things. People say, "Oh, I tried being vegan." You tried. You know, try is to make an attempt to fail. That's hard for people to wrap their mind around because they're like, no, that's not what that means. Well, think about it. If something you didn't accomplish it, you didn't finish the end and get to the objective that you wanted, you tend to say, I tried. You don't say, I did it.
Yeah.
Because if you did it, you did it. You didn't try to do it. You got it done. You were committed to the outcome of finally getting on stage. Or I'm going to be vegan and that's it. Oh, I'm going to see if it works. So then 3 months later, I tried. I didn't really care for it. Oh, you tried. It was too tough. Or there's not enough variety. What do you eat on a normal basis? Chicken, fish, maybe a piece of steak. Every day? Every day. Where's the variety there?
Yeah, it's true.
And it's always a crazy argument. I've never had vegan food, so you don't eat bananas? Oh. You know, so vegan food is usually associated with tofu and seitan or something like that, when you can have beans, rice, you can have black beans, you can have red beans, you can have green beans, you can have all these different things, and you can do it raw.
Yeah.
Right? So there's so many different varieties when it comes to the terminology vegan, but it's usually placed in a box of one thing. And you act one way, and you're angry. You're beating people up because they're not caring about the environment or the animals. And that's not true, because everybody has their own form of activism that relates to how they live their life. But again, we go back to people wanting you to be.
Oh, what? The mic?
The mic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know. So it's a lot.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, do you have a couple of favorite books that have changed your life? Like, if you think of like 2 favorite books, whether it's like vegan or manifesting, business, mindset, like anything that's really impacted you?
2 favorite books. Well, I got to give a good one out to my good friend, Badass Vegan, John Lewis. His book is a good book for people who are looking to make that change, or just kind of read a story of someone's life because he's been 17, 18 years vegan. You know, so we're still thriving out there, and people, you know, forget about those people that are still there. You know, so it's a good, it's called, I'm not sure, but it's Badass Vegan. That's his book. Cool. Also, you know, this is not related to the topic, but it was a book that kind of got me started on the prosperity mindset, which most people probably don't like the person behind it. Yeah. But which one? Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh yeah, I haven't read that one.
And I've also read that. And I've read books that in the past, because at a point in my life, Gillian, I used to be very focused on skin tone. What I'm about to say is I used to hate white people.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, because I was raised up and brought up into a way of thinking that they were the enemy. And so I used to read books like Stolen Legacy, the ISIS Papers. But I think those books have a message that is still good to read because of what's in them, you know. And a lot of times I remember having someone read it and like, oh, this is a very racist book. And I was like, I guess. But it was those books actually gave me a more open mindset when it comes to it. And I think a lot of times we're so tunnel vision that we don't allow ourselves to open to the different ideas that people have, because how are you going to be well-rounded if you're not able to accept that someone's thought process comes from where they have been brought up? That's just who they are at that moment. That doesn't mean they're going to stay there, and it may be in disagreement with you, but the only way you can allow that person to even think about looking into your way of life is when they feel like they can be accepted by you regardless of how they are.
True, yeah. Absolutely. And do you have any ebooks or no?
I do. I have 2 of my own, which one is called Primer and the other one is called Nourish.
Cool.
And, you know, back to helping people. When I created them, it was tough because I like to help people in person. And so I was like, man, I'm going to put this out. Is it going to really help people? Because you really want people to get the results from it. And then, of course, you're going to have your critics that bash it like, oh, what is he talking about? This doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. I had to get over that but it was also hard for me to market it because I almost let the outcome scare me into, oh, don't talk about it too much because then you'll sound salesy and this and that. And that's been the toughest thing for me is being salesy and asking for money because I think these things are hard. So I usually like to delegate someone to do that for me. Yeah. Like I'll have a manager, you go negotiate the contract. Because I'll just do it for free. You know, if you're going to pay for me to fly here and there, okay. Yeah. Have a vacation, cool. That's awesome. But then they're like, no, but you also get paid because it's your time. I was like, oh, yeah.
I love it.
So
I love it. Well, that's good. I'll link your ebooks below and everything. And do you do coaching too?
Yes. So, and it's all on my website, TorreWashington.com. But it's crazy how I get the questions all the time. And I'm thinking, man, maybe I don't talk about my website enough. Because I'll get that in my direct messages on Instagram. Hey, do you do coaching?
I was thinking you should have like a group too. Do you have a group? I have a private group now with Shane Sterling. We run it. It's like for like raw vegan niche. It's amazing. I'll link it down below for you guys. But it's great. And it's like every day people are posting like recipes, questions about things. Like it's like now it's like over 2,000 members.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's amazing. And I think it's like 7. It works out if people pay for the year 7 something a month. But that would be something too. I don't know if you'd want to do that, but like it's great. Okay. And this one is just on Facebook because it's easy to post and like it's private on Facebook.
I gotta get back.
I never used to be big on Facebook.
Me neither.
For the group, it's good, but you could do other places too. But I don't know. That might be something good because there's a big niche like for this, right? And people can like connect with you.
We definitely got to connect on that because that was the next part I wanted to do was something involving Facebook groups. Yeah. Because I don't really use Facebook in that manner.
This is for you, like for some reason. I felt like I should say that.
Thank you, Gillian.
Maybe it's the next message,
Gillian.
right?
Thank you.
It's fun. I interviewed 𝑖𝑺𝑬 She's a 63-year-old vegan from California. Have you seen her? She looks amazing.
She have black hair?
Yeah. She's mostly raw vegan.
Yes.
She's got the boobs. She looks like...
So I found her. I was like, wow.
Right?
You look amazing.
Yeah, she looks good.
Like, and you've heard of Chef Babette.
Yeah, I'm interviewing her in LA next month.
And Karen.
I'm interviewing her in Chicago in
so
September. Yeah.
I know them all. And, you know, that lady, the one you just mentioned.
Elizabeth, she's really deep.
Oh, my gosh. She's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous. And she's so spiritual and deep. Because I think some people look and they're like, oh, the boobs. Like, I can't.
Yes.
She's so deep and spiritual. She looks amazing. She's created how she wants to look. She's a creator, manifester. And in her interview, it was just like story after story about how someone would say, you should do this, you should do this. And she did it. And it was just such an interesting interview because it just showed how, like, listening to her life stories, how it just led to so much amazingness for her whole life. It's amazing. And have you read that book, Conversations with God?
I've heard of it.
Oh my gosh. It's my all-time favorite book. It's by Neil Donald Walsh.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, he was up, like, his life was falling apart. He was up one night at like 3 a.m. and all these downloads just kept coming to him. And he said it was like God just speaking to him. And that's what these books are. And it's literally the most life-changing book. And he talks too about how God is like constantly talking to us if we're in tune with things and like actually listening, right?
Right.
Whether it be like the lyrics that come on the radio or like what the next person says. So
True.
Not always, right?
No, I get it.
But I think a lot of times, that's what your story about that made me realize, just with the girls saying move to Florida. I've been thinking about moving to Florida, but sometimes I'm like, will I feel safe in Miami with my kids? Like, I was at an Airbnb and this guy just busted in. I was like, what are you doing? Then I pretended my husband was there. I was like, my husband wasn't there. But that's my thing if something's happening.
What do you mean busted in? Did he break the door down?
He opened the door, came in, open your door, and came in. And I was sitting on the bathroom. I was sitting on the toilet and I opened. I was like, and then right away I just pretended, let me get my husband. He's right here. And then the guy shut the door and went out. I was so scared. But I was alone. So then I'm like, is it safe? It's safe, right? Because I'm really thinking about moving here. Miami Beach.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
Then I'm like, is it safe? Because I want to move here.
I mean, everywhere has its places, right?
True, that's the thing, yeah.
You know, and that's the thing, I think. Like, for example, I just have a client, and they're going to Jamaica this weekend.
Yeah.
And the other day, I got an article from someone that said Jamaica and Colombia have been considered dangerous places to be right now.
Yeah, I guess it's like,
what?
just like...
And so they said in Jamaica, people are coming to the resorts and robbing people and doing other things. And I was like, really? Like, oh, wow. So, and I heard a story. I was talking to a friend. They got off the airplane, left the airport, and got chased.
Wow.
And then got robbed.
See, wow.
It was like a car chase.
Yeah.
Guess got to them and robbed them. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
So it's just probably happening everywhere.
True.
You know, so and, like my friend lives in Atlanta. The next door neighbor, someone kicked in the door and robbed the place. They were there.
Whoa.
They stayed in the room. They heard them and they were like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
So they didn't go out.
Yeah, I guess it's like anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I think just we do our best to avoid it. And
you know, so you know, and I where I live in Tamarack. So I live in Broward County. A little different, you know, but Miami has its areas, I'm sure, and then there's areas that's just fine.
Yeah. So. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because I'm thinking about it. It's nice here. The
Surfside, Sunny Isles, those are good areas too.
Yeah, and just having the beach. Okay, I've heard that. Having the beach, the sun, the ocean. It's just so nice. Someone was asking too. A few people were asking how to get shredded. Like if you have tips on how to get more tips on how to get shredded.
So, caloric deficit, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second thing is rest. 8 hours of sleep or more is what you need in order for the body to burn fat. And we don't really, oh yeah, because it's like a thing that people negate due to social media. They want to be on their phone all night, and then that's going to disrupt your mental process of the wind down period of when you need to sleep, because during that time your body's recovering. It's almost like, it's exactly, someone mentioned this to me the other day, it's meditation. Because when you meditate, what do? You focus on your breath. And you just sit there in silence and quiet. When you sleep, it's the same thing. Now you're just horizontal. But it's all breathing, and your body's just recovering. Everything shuts down and allows itself to reduce the stress. And so that cortisol is gone. And now, but if you're stimulating your brain up until you sleep, it's still running. You know, and that's what the light and all the social media does to us. And someone stay in bed doing that. So, and then I increase my water intake because the one thing, when you have enough water in your body gets rid of the subcutaneous water, which is underneath our skin. You know, so that's how we get that look to stay lean. And then it's all about what works for your metabolism, because some people can do higher fat, some people can do low fat, some people can do higher carbs, some people do low carbs. So it's almost trial and error to see what works for your body type, because it's not just one size fits all when it comes to protein, carbs, and fats, micronutrients, what have you. It's a combination of these in the order that suits your physique. And that's why it's good to have someone help you get that process done, because, or you can just go through it on your own if you have the time to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
Or hire a coach.
True. Good point. I think it's so true about the sleep too. I think sleep is so underrated. It affects us so much mentally too. I noticed if I don't sleep for 2 weeks there, I was sleeping like 4 hours a night. And I was just like, I reached a day where I was just like, I'm going to lose it.
Yes.
Because, you know, they say when you sleep, like your brain, it processes the stimulation from the day before, literally. And if you're not sleeping, like it builds up, right? And you just can go crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's such a big thing. And like you said, it's very underrated. Because like sleep is for da-da-da, but no, man, sleep is important.
Yeah. And somebody's asking, a few people are asking, do you use protein powders?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I didn't start using protein powders until like 2018, 16. And like I said, I was very against them because I wanted to just eat food and just, I considered that natural. Yeah. You know, and then I realized acceptance. Everything has its purpose when it comes to that. So some people, I realized that supplement actually means exactly what it means. Supplement. It's not a necessity. Yeah. It's something that comes in a convenient packaging to allow you to get in something when you can't get in food-wise, like you can't just eat. So I take them here and there, and like typically I usually do them more when I'm getting ready for competition because I'm on the go more. And now I need to be more regulated or regimented for my food intake. And so that's when they'll come into play. And so my protein is usually up to around towards 190 grams per day. Yeah. And so if I'm not able to get that in with just eating, I may have a shake here or two, you know, and that's the only time I really pretty much use them. And I like to typically use ones that don't have much in it, but because it's hard to find, you know, there's a lot of them that have so much in there
Yeah.
Because everybody likes how they taste and what have you. And it's all about, I'm more about performance than taste. Some people that taste my protein, like, that's disgusting. But to me, it's okay because I'm looking at the more benefits of how I'm going to look and feel versus that it just tastes good.
Yeah. You know? And I know we said a couple things. So if people were to ask, just because I know people are all asking about the protein too, right? Like I'm sure you get it all the time. If you were to say like your top 5 sources of protein, what would you say?
Top 5. Seitan.
Yeah.
Fava bean tofu, which is just called tofu because of the texture. Regular tofu, tempeh, and what's the other one? It's just peas, pea protein. Those are my top 5 that I use the most.
And what would you say, what's the most common question you get? Would it be the protein thing?
No, that used to be. Now it's just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like, you know, because, you know, I never really got the whole, like, you can't build muscle because I look the way I look.
Yeah.
You know, so it would just be, how are you able to build that muscle? And then I'll explain to them. And then they're like, then that comes later, like, so what are like you said, what are your top 5 protein sources? And so when I mentioned that, the next question is, oh, that's so processed. It's not as processed as your meat is processed, you know, because if you look at a packaging of meat, it says minimally processed.
Yeah.
You know, and tofu basically is just edamame crushed, coagulated to give that texture so that it has that spring, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and you just cook it, you know, and of course, like, oh, all the soy, well, phytoestrogen soy. It's not this soy that you're assuming that's really put into meat.
Yeah.
Because of all the process that it goes through. But, you know, that's a whole other subject.
Wow, interesting. It's been so. Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you too. Do you have a course? I was just thinking when you were saying that, like people ask you, "What do I do?"
A course.
Do you have like a course people can buy? Like a course?
Wow.
Like an
I
online
have to
course?
say, you
like
know what I'm
program?
saying? Wow, guys. Someone just said that to me yesterday.
Your thing. You have to have that.
They said you
can
need
make
a
course,
course.
a video course going over everything for people to do and what you do and like, you know, videos, and then they purchase it, they get everything.
What is this called?
That's perfect for you.
Is this called,
you know,
it's
like
in alignment?
Shane,
but
so yeah, that's what you should do. But so Shane, who I'm partnered with the Raw Vegan group we have now, with his group, so he started it, we're partnered for it. He has like a lot of courses and he's really successful at them. Like I can connect you with him too.
Please.
Yeah, because I think that would be perfect for you. Yeah, like
That's
you've already got a lot of amazing things on the go, but I feel like that would be great. Yeah, your course.
Gillian, this was definitely.
And you can reach so many people with that. You know what I mean?
This was purposeful because I just talked about this yesterday.
Wow.
Like for the first time.
Wow.
About having a course. Because I was just on the phone with my manager and she was like, we need to work on courses. And I was like, here you go, talk about
That's the thing. That's perfect. And because you reach so many people like that too, you know?
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Well, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
I've loved having you
Thank you.
on. Yeah, it's been amazing. And I'd love for you to let everybody know where they can find you. And if there's anything else you want to end off with, like anything we feel we didn't share with about bodybuilding or anything to encourage anybody who may be wanting to get to this type of potential or success level, then absolutely let us know.
The one thing I could think is basically as part of the 4 agreements, don't take things personal. And that's so tough because like I mentioned the example of someone cutting you off in traffic, we think it's personal to us when it's not. It's just people going through their day, you know.
So true.
And when you can not take things personally, oh man, your life is so much better because you don't assume that everything's an attack on you. It's more just your day going and how are you reacting? Because when you can react without the emotion of it's against me, it's working for me. Because if it comes off negative, it's not negative. It's just I want to see how you behave from that. You know, are your emotions gonna fluctuate so dramatically that it affects your day for the rest of the day?
Yeah.
Because, you know, and so this can also age you, you know, cause you to.
That's a fact. Yeah.
Truth be told, Gillian, you look good too. You
Thanks.
look very good.
Thanks.
Like, I saw like, who's that young? Oh,
Thanks.
it's Gillian.
Thanks.
You look good.
Thank
you.
you.
Look good.
Yeah, but you're right. That can age you for sure. Like being angry and stressed and reacting to
Yes.
things is probably the worst. Plus, like lack of sleep, not taking care of yourself. So take care of yourselves, guys. You can look like this. That's freaking amazing. You're awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. You're such a good vibe. You're such a calming energy.
I appreciate it.
And everybody, go grab Torre's stuff. I'll link everything down below. Check out his website. Stay tuned for his new stuff that we have, his book, anything else in the future. Super exciting too. Yeah, you're awesome. I'd love to have you back in the future, and this has been great.
I'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, one other thing. Do you juice or no? Do you drink juices?
There was a time I used to do juice a lot.
Yeah.
And like I would juice carrots and apples. Me and my roommate back in college, we did it so much because he's also vegan.
Yeah.
And so we would just do it constantly. And then it just kind of just fell out of the
mix?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but I love it. You know, if there were a way for me to constantly do that and eat raw all the time as much as possible, I would do it.
Yeah.
You know, because one last thing, one of my clients, my first client here in Miami, down here in Surfside.
Yeah.
They found me because they're vegan, but his wife, before she passed, she was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Wow.
And they gave her 6 months, so it was terminal. And so she was like, well, I'm going to change that. She went raw vegan.
Wow, what happened?
Lived 8 years.
Wow, incredible. Good for her. That's amazing. What a story.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Wow, amazing.
So there's power, and I trust the power in raw vegan, and I recognize its validity. I think a lot of people just don't realize it because they like to point out these horrible examples online. Like, look at this person, they look horrible, and this is blah, 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 you know how it is.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. Well, again, thanks. This has been awesome.
You.
I've loved talking to you. I think it's been
Thank
great.
you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the viewers, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you loved it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe for more awesome content coming soon. Join my group below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Take care.